Corey here from Crash and Burn Racing, and today we're taking a look at the 20 by 20 millimeter Flytower stack by XUAV. In our Flytower box, here are the components that you will receive. Got our ESC, flight controller, video transmitter, we got our wires, I got all the hardware to make the stack, and a capacitor. The capacitor is a 220 microfarad capacitor. Because there are no soldering pads on the flight controller here, they give you 4 wires that are all silicone. This top one is your video transmitter. The second one here is for S-Bus. This one is your DSMX cord, and this one is your RGB LED / buzzer cable. This is the hardware you receive for your stack. These M2 spacers here are 5 millimeters. These M2 bolts here are 25 millimeters in length. They do give you 12 of these rubber grommets, which is very nice, and 4 lock nuts along with the whip antenna. Starting with the bottom of the stack, this ESC is 4 by 20 amps with a maximum output of 25 amps. It comes flash with 1 shot and is capable up to D-Shot 600, and it measures 27 by 27 millimeters in width and length. For the flight controller, it does run off of Betaflight Omnibus firmware, does have a built-in OSD, features a F4 CPU, and has a MPU 6000 gyro, and measures 25 by 25 millimeters. The top side of the flight controller, you can see these pins, which will go to your video transmitter. Using one of the cables I showed you before, this port here will go to your camera, and this port down here goes to your transmitter. The bottom side of the flight controller, here you'll see this port up here, which is used for your LEDs / the buzzer cable, and these pins right here are what will plug into your ESC. Looking at the video transmitter, these 3 LEDs going from left to right. The left LED will be red, and that will indicate your power. The middle LED here is green, and that will indicate your band, and the right LED here is blue, and that will indicate your channel. And this button here is what you will use to control that. And this button here can actually be pushed from the side, or you can also push it from the top to change the channel. Here's your antenna connector right here. And on the bottom of the video transmitter here, you have your pins that will go to the flight controller. And then you also have some solder pads here that you can also solder to in the event you don't want to use the cable that's included. This is a 48 channel transmitter with channels of A, B, F, H, and R, with power settings of 25, 100, and 200 milliwatts. And the voltage go to the camera is 5 volts. To start assembly, I went ahead and soldered on my power negative leads to my ESC, and on my board I've gone ahead and ran my M2 25mm bolts up and added 2 O-rings in here, and I'll just set my ESC on top. With the 2 O-rings, I have just enough clearance to run my battery strap under here, so that should work out just fine. Now I'm going to start soldering on my wires. The ESC is now all soldered up, and I want to note that I did solder these bottom wires here that go to your LiPo to the bottom 2 pads, and I added a capacitor to the 2 top soldering pads here, and then reinforced this with some hot glue. And I want to note that the capacitor that it came with, which was this one, this is a 220 microfarad capacitor, and for its size, you can see here, it's actually quite a bit bigger than this one that I had, which is a 330 Panasonic. So I opted to go with this because I really didn't want to switch it out for this one later on. So when you do use the CSC, definitely add this capacitor because I'm pretty sure it's going to need it. I'm now ready to add these 5mm M2 spacers, so we'll get these put on and put the flight controller on. I now have the flight controller ready to insert into the stack, and you just want to make sure that these pins line up with these pins here, and there will be no more soldering to do with the flight controller to the ESC here, because it will be done on these pins, so that is really handy. So I'm going to get this put on here. Flight controller is now in place, and I did plug in my DSMX satellite receiver cable already, and I got my standoffs put in. I already lost one of these pink aluminum standoffs, so I had to go dig through my stuff and find a little one here to put in for place for now. But anyway, so our arrow's going forward, which is for the frame, and now when we put in the video transmitter, we're just going to make sure these pins line up with here. So I'm going to get this video transmitter put on here. Our Flytower stack is now complete. I did plug it into Betaflight and tested it real quick, and the video transmitter does not turn on while plugged into USB, and my receiver did not work. But after I hooked up to LiPo voltage, the video transmitter turned on, my satellite turned on, everything hooked up alright. After I did hook it up to Betaflight, I did notice that this has 3 UARTs and it uses UART 6 for the receiver. So the thing that's left now is to finish putting it together and test it out and see how it works. Here's the completed build with the Flytower system in it, and the assembly did go quite smooth. Did not run into any issues with damaging the boards or the capacitors in here. And I'm going to throw some flight footage down in the corner right here. And I was really impressed with how well it flew. The video was very clean, no issues there. And like I said, there's not really many cons about this board, but what cons there is kind of a big deal for me. The biggest con being the video transmitter. Changing channels on here is such a pain. You have to read little lights in here, which of course when you throw it on your build, it's going to be super hard to get to. And if it had smart audio, it would not be a deal whatsoever, but if you plan on changing channels a lot, this is probably not the video transmitter for you. So I have about 6 battery packs put through this guy, and tuning went very well. The video you're watching down right here, that's about the 4th time I changed the PIDs. They're still not perfect, they still have to come down a bit, but the performance of the board's great. Durability doesn't seem to be an issue as long as it's in a decent frame where it can protect these parts. Another small con about this board is that there's no conformal coating. So if you happen to drop a little tiny screw in there, or if a screw comes off, it could potentially cause a short in here. But you can always apply coating yourself by grabbing a bottle of this for about 10 to 12 bucks. Highly recommend getting one of these. So my final thoughts on this board is if you're someone who doesn't like to solder, this could be a big plus for you, because the only things I ended up soldering on this board were the wires coming from the motors, the capacitor, and the lead. That's it. The rest was just wires plugging into the boards, and all the wires that it came with were great. Like I said, they were silicone earlier, and it's super easy to build. But the downside of that is there's actually no solder pads on the flight controller, so you pretty much have to go with what the stack is built for. So with that said, it's a great board. I like it. It's not perfect, but neither board is. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you disliked it, give it a dislike. Let me know why. I'm Cor with Crash Burn Racing, and thank you for watching.